Welcome back to my channel. Tonight's story is one of those creepy pasta stories that you could say has elements of a true crime with a little bit of an urban legend mixed in. It comes from a Reddit user. This is the story of the Fairfax. Alright, let's dive right in. New York City never really sleeps. It bustles with life by day, but by night it holds secrets that seem to whisper from its forgotten corners. For decades, the city's diverse neighborhoods have echoed with tales of the unexplained, the macabre, and the downright eerie. And among these urban legends, there are a few that captivate the imagination, quite like the haunting tale of an old apartment building known as the Fairfax. The year was 2011, and the bustling streets of Newark had grown quiet. Winter's icy breath swept through the vacant windows of 48 Fairmount Avenue, an 8-story brick structure that had stood stoic against time. Back when it was first constructed, this building was a beacon of luxury housing, attracting the city's elite. But now its grandeur was all but forgotten. Graffiti marred the walls and shattered glass crunched underfoot, a testament to years of neglect. The building was a shadow of its former self, its glory days long gone. For over a decade, rumors swirled around the building. Whispers of a ghost, some said. Others spoke of inexplicable accidents and strange occurrences. Then there were the strange occurrences. Some tenants claimed that their possessions moved inexplicably, while others swore they heard voices echoing through the empty halls. But no story was more disturbing than that of Lenore Murphy, a young woman who vanished without a trace in the winter of 2000. She had been a bright, bubbly girl, a college student studying just blocks away. But one day she simply disappeared. No struggle, no sign of foul play, and no goodbye. The police had labeled it a voluntary disappearance, but her family never believed that. In the years since then, stories about the building had only grown. Now, as night fell, a new story was about to unfold. Sarah walked down the cracked sidewalk, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. She was a resident of Fairmount Avenue, having moved in just a month ago. Her new apartment was small but cozy. It had old, creaky floorboards. Yes, but it was filled with light, and the murmur of the neighborhood was music to her ears. But lately, nights had become uneasy. Just after midnight, the power would flicker, and the old building next door, 48 Fairmount Avenue, would be bathed in an eerie yellowish glow. At first, she'd assumed it was faulty wiring, a quirk of an aging building. But her assumption was shattered one night as she peered out of her window. She saw a man cautiously opening the boarded-up entrance to 48 Fairmount Avenue. The sight sent a chill down her spine. Who would go near that place? She knew the story of the missing woman, the unsolved mystery that hung like a shroud over the building. But this was the first time she'd seen anyone venture inside. Curiosity gnawed at her, and one night she decided to follow him. She trailed him from a distance, keeping out of sight. As she followed him, her heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the eyes of the city on her, watching her every move. What was she doing? Her mind screamed at her to stop, but her feet kept moving. He slipped inside the building and she peeked around the corner, her eyes straining to see in the gloom. She saw the man make his way up the stairs, each step creaking under his weight. Sarah hesitated, torn between her mounting fear and a surge of adrenaline. Should she call the police? What if there was danger lurking inside that building? But the questions remained unanswered because the man emerged from the darkness, holding a flashlight. His face was grim, etched with determination. Sarah watched him disappear around the corner. Unable to bear the suspense any longer, she made a decision. She was going inside. Her hands trembled as she reached for the doorknob. It was cold, almost icy to the touch. She pushed it open slowly and stepped inside. The air was stale and heavy, thick with the scent of dust and decay. As she ventured deeper into the building, she could feel the eyes of the city boring into her back. She turned to look and saw that the street had vanished. All she could see was endless darkness, a gaping maw of nothingness behind her. Panic clawed at her throat. She was trapped. She started to run, each breath catching in her throat. Her heart pounded like a drum solo in a horror movie. She could hear her own screams echoing in her ears, bouncing off the walls of this concrete labyrinth. But then she tripped, sprawling onto the cold, hard floor. The air whooshed out of her lungs and pain exploded in her ankle. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was trapped, injured, and alone in a building where shadows danced and secrets whispered. And that's when she heard it, a soft voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Don't trust the lights. When Sarah regained consciousness, she found herself lying on the cold, hard floor of an abandoned apartment building. The enigmatic voice echoed in her head, sending chills down her spine. Struggling to her feet, she realized that she wasn't alone. Standing before her was a gaunt man with haunted eyes and a disheveled appearance. His gaze was intense, unwavering as he regarded her with an unsettling stare. His clothes were dusty, his hair tangled, and there was a wild glint in his eyes that spoke of a troubled mind. Fear tightened its grip on her heart, but curiosity battled with her terror. She needed answers. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The man didn't respond. He merely continued to stare at her, his silence deafening. Sarah, summoning a surge of courage, decided to make a run for it. She darted past the man, her heart pounding in her chest, and raced down the darkened hallway. She could hear his heavy footsteps pounding behind her, gaining on her with every stride. Adrenaline surged through her veins, urging her to flee further. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs screamed for mercy. She could hear the man's ragged breathing, feel his presence looming ever closer. Then suddenly, through a crack in the door at the end of the hall, she saw a faint glimmer of light. Hope surged through her, propelling her forward. She stumbled through the doorway and found herself in a small, cluttered room. The sight that greeted her was both unexpected and unsettling. In the dim light, she saw rows upon rows of old televisions, their screens flickering with static and computers with strange symbols dancing across their monitors. It was as though she had stumbled into a bizarre, chaotic museum of outdated technology. The room was filled with a low hum, a constant backdrop of electrical energy that set her teeth on edge. But Sarah's attention was drawn to a notebook lying on one of the cluttered desks. With trembling hands, she opened it and began to read. The entries were written in neat handwriting, chronicling the strange happenings in the building, but as she delved deeper into the journal, her heart sank. The entries grew increasingly frantic, the handwriting becoming wild and erratic. One entry in particular sent a chill down her spine. The writer spoke of a lurking presence, something watching her every move, and with each passing day the sense of dread intensified. "If I disappear," the last entry read, "don't trust the lights." The words seemed to leap off the page, echoing the ominous warning Sarah had heard earlier. The realization dawned on her. This building was more than just a dilapidated structure. It was a labyrinth of secrets, a repository of fears, and she was trapped within its shadowy confines. Suddenly, the hum of the computers in the room grew louder, morphing into an ear-piercing screech. The television screens flickered wildly, displaying grotesque images that seemed to mock her terror. The room itself began to shake, the walls vibrating with an otherworldly hum. Panic seized her. Was the building collapsing, or was something more sinister at play? That's when the man from before appeared in the doorway, his eyes gleaming with a disturbing light. "You shouldn't have come here," he rasped, his voice like sandpaper on bone. "This place isn't safe." As the ground shook beneath her feet, Sarah realized that she was indeed in grave danger. She had stumbled upon a terrifying truth. This building was a nightmare made flesh, a place where reality frayed and madness held court, and she was caught in its suffocating grip. If you like stories like this, definitely check out another video I did on The Watcher. It's a creepy pasta story based on a true story that happened in New Jersey. Let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching.